Cape Verdeans are used to making do with what nature has provided. Their lands are scattered over 10 windswept islands in an archipelago off West Africa. Life for generations past was made even harder, as the harsh conditions and mountainous terrain made the availability of water a constant challenge for the inhabitants.
We used to come to this area here to watch the monkeys. Then, with the droughts, all the trees disappeared, and we never saw the monkeys after that.
In fact, barely 10% of the land remains arable, and many on Cape Verde had little or no access to fresh water.
People had to carry up to 20 liters at a time over long distances and on steep slopes. Especially the women, who used to have to struggle very hard.
In the Picos and Engenhos catchment areas, surface waters would simply run off down the steep slopes, dragging thousands of tons of soil and rubble in its wake. So raised platforms or terracing was constructed on viable slopes to prevent the runoff and add new fertile parcels of land, all reinforced with solid rock wall gabions.
The wall has really helped, because it's allowed me to plant the produce over and under the rocks.
Eventually, a system of the large step-like formations was fashioned out of the mountainsides, covering 90 square kilometers in all. Dams, reservoirs, and over 100 dikes were constructed, as well as the boring of new wells over a 6-year period. Water storage, having been optimized, a series of irrigation for the reclaimed land was also introduced. Simple but effective methods are used, such as rubber piping. Over 350,000 Cape Verdeans live in rural areas. Traditionally, people here grew enough to feed their families and little more.
It's thanks to the training we received as part of the project that we learnt how to farm and work more efficiently. If we'd received that sort of training before, we'd have had a better life, because we used to work hard but got little in return.
Education, as well as technology for smallholders, used to simply clearing the slopes in a wasteful and harmful slash and burn practice. The project oversaw the replanting of 1,700 hectares of degraded land.
Before there was this dam, we didn't have much to work on. But the dam and the land that's now been irrigated means we can now work the fields and grow produce. Thank God.
Thousands of woody and fruit trees were planted, including banana trees, one of the island's mainstays. Over $1 million worth of credit was made available to farmers, who were then able to build or refurbish stables for livestock and import new animals and learn new techniques.
This cow has now had 2 calves. The other has had 3, but there are still difficulties with the bull. We have to find a way to make the cows more fertile, but I did sell the calves for about $1,000 each.
Agricultural trainees received a basic salary and social security, and a line of credit was also made available.
For the purchase of animals and the development of irrigated plots of land, a line of credit was made available at a rate of 5%, which was far more accessible than the commercial bank rate, which was 12%.
And while a total of $9 million in financing and technical support came from the African Development Bank and other international institutions, the majority of the work was carried out by the islanders themselves. They received training on several aspects of agricultural engineering, from basic masonry and constructing the stone walls that now dot the hillsides to long-term farming practices and livestock management.
Thanks to the training, I found this job, because my employer has guaranteed stable work for me because of this experience. I learned a lot by working here, and I'm still learning thanks to Alidio, who's the technical expert. Yes, Mr. Arlindo Moreira is one of our recruits. He's involved in several agricultural programs, the techniques of production, the basics of treating sick animals, and how to set up the water piping.
And this group were some of the 65 youngsters that have since found long-term employment.
How'd we get this opportunity? 25 youngsters were selected to study irrigation, and of the 25, just 7 of us were selected to work this parcel of land that was donated.
A priority for the authorities on Cape Verde was making sure women were not left behind. Homemakers who knew the frustrations and anguish of trying to raise families with often acute water shortages. Their associations were encouraged and supported by the project.
Now I just have to open the tap, and there's water. What chased hunger from our door? The cows in the fields help chase hunger from our door. The youngsters should embrace this project and continue to work hard. It's the best way they have to progress in life.
Where they once often migrated into the towns for parts of the year, women have been encouraged to stay on the land and take a leading role in forging their own destinies and financial security by more productive farming methods. Now lettuce, peas and turnips to courgettes and beetroot are being cultivated, and as a result provide enough to keep a steady flow of income for 7 or 8 months a year.
I've made money. I've bought vegetables and produce and sold it on and made money. Thanks to this income, I'm now able to send my daughters to university in Portugal.
Maria proudly shows off a photograph of her 2 girls. She applied and received credit for her business on 2 occasions and has now repaid the loans in full. Overall incomes have risen on average by 50%, to the equivalent of $1,900 a year in the Engenhos and Picos catchment areas, according to official figures.
We want to be even more ambitious. We want to see the project followed up until 2016, and we're looking at putting aside $5 million for this.
Harnessing the island's natural resources in a long-term and sustainable manner is vital. Many livelihoods on these remote Atlantic islands depend on the land and water resources that have already seen so much improvement over the past decade. Wealth is in the land, in the water, and in the community's ability to manage their resources.